Thank you for joining the presentation this morning. And, you know, I think it's important that we do spend a little time today talking about security. So many times we think of security, we think of the movies, and we think of people in cloaks and hoods and in an apartment somewhere cracking these big algorithms trying to get in. And although that does happen sometimes, that is not the main way that most companies are hacked. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about deep technical things. We're going to talk about technology and security from a business perspective. And we're going to use normal everyday language. We're going to talk about some simple things that you can do to protect yourself and to protect your business and to protect your family, frankly. So Michelle mentioned a few things. I'll just say that technology is something that I've always had a passion for. And as much as I do enjoy the very deep technical things about technology, the thing I love most is the way that it empowers business. And if it's really done right, it can give businesses a competitive advantage in whatever field they're in. So that's why I love technology. I love it for what it can do for business. So thank you again to Michelle for the opportunity to present. And I want to also say thank you to Coleman for helping get everything put together. We love our relationship with the BBB, Better Business Bureau of Central East Texas, and are very grateful for the opportunity to present. So thank you. All right, we're going to get started with a poll question. And you're going to be able to respond to this through the app. So the first poll question is, the company I work for has provided me with tools and education to help me avoid attacks and make good security-based decisions regarding my daily usage of technology while conducting company business. So I'll say this, this is not about the money that you're money that your company has spent on technology. It's about the training that you have received. So we're not going to provide any of this information back to your companies. This is mainly just to get a sense for the folks attending the meeting, how you feel about the education you've received. So we'll give just a few more seconds for people to respond. And so far, based on the respondents, it looks like 92% of the people feel like they have received good education. 8% feel that they have not. So thank you for sharing that information. Okay. So, the reason that that's important is because we are all targets. And what IT has a tendency to do, what IT people have a tendency to do, is to build a wall around the organization. And that is great. We need a wall to keep us safe. We need a wall to keep out the bad guys. The unfortunate fact is that over 90% of attacks on businesses, successful attacks, are the so-called socially engineered attack. And that is where IT has built a wonderful wall around the organization, but we find that employees open the front door and let people right in. I mean, it's the equivalent of having a security system put into your house, and it can be a wonderful security system, but if you open the front door and let the bad guys in, that security system isn't going to do a darn thing for you. So we have to recognize that as employees, as consumers, as people using technology, we are targets. We have ownership in this. We have to be accountable for taking some steps on our own to make sure that we are keeping ourselves safe, our company safe, and our family safe. All right, and to give you some sense here of how big cybercrime has become, this is a screenshot from the FBI webpage. And in addition to traditional areas of investigation like civil rights violation, organized crime, white collar crime. Cyber crime has also been added as a specific area of investigation by the FBI because it's become so prevalent. Companies are being attacked on a daily basis and people are being exploited. Millions of dollars are being lost. From a business perspective, this is not just an IT problem. As an executive in a company, if you're a business owner, if you're an executive, you have to be actively involved with your IT department to make sure that you're listening to your IT department so that you can be properly protected. And I'm going to make this point throughout: no solution is complete unless you are educating your end user community. The end user community has got to be educated about what to look for, what the risks are, what the tools are that they have available to them, so that they can protect themselves, they can protect your company, and they can protect their families. All right, so question number 2. Do you check links in email messages to make sure they are safe before clicking them? So we're just going to take a couple of minutes. Go ahead and respond to this. Thank you for your responses. And let's see, with 80% of people attending the webinar voting, I see that 94% of the folks in this meeting do check email links and email messages. 6% do not. All right, very well. That's very good. So we're going to go into how do we check. All right, socially engineered attacks. In case you're not familiar with the term socially engineered attacks, they are attacks that seek to exploit our own human behaviors. Humans understand fear, we understand temptation, we understand curiosity. As humans, we have a desire to help people. And as employees of companies, we understand that senior people in the company, like the business owner, or the president, or vice presidents, when they ask to have things done, we as employees are supposed to jump through hoops to make those happen. We're not necessarily supposed to question authority. We're just supposed to answer requests when they are given to us. The problem is in a social engineered attack, that kind of behavior, that kind of societal training, that kind of corporate training can backfire on us, and we can wind up hurting ourselves and our companies. So these social engineered attacks can be from well-known companies. They can look like branded emails. They can look very legitimate. We're in the middle of a COVID pandemic. The rise in COVID-related social engineered attacks has been off the charts. Something else that's very prominent and popular right now as an attack vector is student loan refinancing, or remote learning as it relates to college classes. People are being exploited with those kinds of emails. So we're going to talk about how to identify those things and how to be very careful and to increase your vigilance. All right, so quickly, a definition of terms, just to make sure that we're not using terms that are unfamiliar. And at this point in 2020, these terms have been used so frequently that they've almost become a part of our daily vocabulary. But we all know what phishing is. You bait a hook, you throw it out on the water, and you see what bites. Sometimes you have a bobber and you just watch the bobber. Well, phishing is the same thing. We send out a lot of email messages to a wide disbursement of individuals. We don't really care if I have legitimate emails or illegitimate emails. I just want to send out a high volume of email messages. I know that a certain percentage of those are going to land, and of a certain percentage that land, a certain number of people are going to click on the email, and then I have my opportunity. Spear phishing. You've seen the videos on TV where a scuba diver goes into the water with a spear gun and they're targeting specific fish. Well, spear phishing is the same concept. I'm going to use attacks to attack specific individuals within a company. And we're going to use specific language and specific requests to target those folks. And we're going to go into that here in a second. So what I'm showing you over here is I regularly allow a lot of email into my inbox. And I'm showing you that over a 2-week period of time, I received 12, 15 or so email messages from companies purporting to be Amazon. And it's everything from unclaimed Amazon rewards to unlock your preloaded Amazon card. Not one of these messages was a legitimate Amazon email. So that gives you some ideas to the prevalence of the kind of socially engineered attack emails that are coming into companies on a regular basis. All right, so we want to look at the anatomy of an email to make sure that we're looking at things properly. A well-formed email address is made up of a username and a domain name, and they are separated by the @ sign. So in the most commonly used email construct, I've got my name, I've got the company that I work for, and then I've got .com. So sometimes, if I'm using a third-party email service, this might say gmail.com or outlook.com, or for many of us, it says our company. Inside of Outlook, something that you'll notice, and I'm specifically going to talk about Microsoft Outlook today. I know you can read email in a browser, and I know that there are other email services out there, but I'm going to talk about Outlook because in a business context, well over 90 to 95% of businesses in the United States use Outlook as their email reader, and Outlook will present information in this format. This will be a display name. So this, instead of showing J. Huffaker, it shows my full name. And then in Outlook, if I see triangle brackets, which I'm going to show you again in a second. Oops. I'm going to show you in a second. These triangle brackets indicate an email that has been received from outside the company. All right. So something else we need to look at is character similarity. This is a popular way of people tricking us into thinking that an email is coming from someone we know when it's really not. So if I take a look at this email address and this email address, at first glance, they look very, very similar. But if I look closely, I can see that there's an A and there's an O. So from a computer perspective, these are two very different email addresses. Even though as a human, I might look at that and say, well, that's pretty darn close. And here in a different font, I don't even really see the difference. So this is one way that people will attack our companies, is that they'll pick a email address that looks very close to a legitimate email, and they'll try to establish a conversation using that email address. Here's another character sequence that looks very, very close. We're looking at the lowercase l, the capital I, and the number 1. And you can see here, these two in particular, there's virtually no difference at all in this font when I look at those. And if I look at it in a different font presentation, although I can see there's a difference, think about your normal workday. You're moving very quickly. You're answering the phone, you've got somebody stopping by your cube, somebody knocking at your door. If you're not being vigilant, if you're not carefully looking at the email that you're receiving, you might not notice that there's a difference. Here's another commonly used character substitution, O's and zeros. All right, we're going to talk about email links and investigating links. And before I do that, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to the safe way to look at a link. So when you're using a mouse on a regular basis, this is the way you're using it. Your fingers are over the buttons, and you have a left button, you have a right button, and you're clicking and going about your business. this is not the safe way that I want you to investigate links. When we investigate links, I want you to take your fingers away from those buttons and hold your mouse at the bottom. When you hold your mouse at the bottom, you can move the cursor around and you're not in danger of clicking anything. You know, I've reached an age in my life where my fingers aren't as steady as they once were. Sometimes they'll just randomly click. And when you're looking at a link and you're trying to figure out if it's safe or not, accidentally clicking that link is not a good thing. All right, so here we are. Here in Outlook, what happens when I hover over a link, and you can see that I have an underline under the link indicating it is a link. If I hover over that, then Outlook will pop up a small window and it will show you what the link is. So this link, which is legitimate, shows that it's from datamaxtexas.com. It's from one of our blogs, the You Ask We Answer blog, and it's right to a blog post. And one of the email etiquette items that's been developing recently, given that there's so many fake links, is to actually post the link underneath the the pretty link, so that you can copy and paste that into a browser. That's a security precaution, but not everybody does that. That's why it's important to understand how do you look at a link. So this is a link that was successfully used to target a company. And in this case, it was someone spoofing or faking an old Datamax domain. So one of our offices in Little Rock, we have used datamax-lr.com as a domain name before, and this email was sent using that. The problem is if I hover over that link, I see that the link revealed by Outlook is nothing similar to the link that's presented within this email. So if I don't investigate that link, if I don't hover over it and make sure that there's some similarity, and I just click it, then there's going to be a major problem. And you know, it could be that you're taken to a site where bad software is injected into your computer. It could be that you're presented with a login screen where you're tempted to log in, and all that login site is going to do is harvest your login information and use it elsewhere. All right, more phishing. So this is one of those Amazon emails that I mentioned earlier, and you can see this Outlook message. I'm being presented with a friendly display name, but I'm also shown the email address behind the display name, and I'm also shown the triangle brackets. Those triangle brackets mean that email has come from outside the company. It's an external email. And if I look, the username looks like it could be legitimate, amazon.product.highlight. But if I look beyond the @ sign into the domain name, I see that it's gravbrotfamilydental.com. So there is no way that this email came from Amazon. If it were coming from Amazon, it would say no reply at amazon.com or something about Amazon over here, but it most certainly would not say Gravbrot Family Dental. So using some of the training that we've covered so far, you're able to identify that as a illegitimate email. So again, using the hover, if I were to hover over this link, you know, the temptation here is that people want to see what kind of spy camera there is. If I were to hover over that using the hover technique with my fingers on the back of the mouse, then I'll see that that link does not take me to the Amazon website. It takes me somewhere else, and there's no telling what's going to happen when I follow that link. So dangerous email right there, something to be ignored, not to be clicked on. You would delete that right away, or you could share it with your IT department so that they could add that name to their domain blocking list, but you would not want to click on that link. All right, poll question number 3. do you review email addresses in the email you receive to make sure they are legitimate before responding? And we'll just take a couple of seconds for folks to provide some feedback here. And I'll be interested to see the results. So thank you for your responses. All right, we have a little, looks like we have a little different spread on this one. 64% of respondents do check the email address, 36% do not. So again, thank you for sharing that information. All right, so this is our first example of spear phishing, and I have to tell you, I was very impressed with the sophistication of this attack. This came into me as you listened to Michelle's introduction of me. I spent some time in the San Diego area. I got my college degree from the University of California at San Diego, but I also worked for the city of San Diego as a lifeguard. So this was very interesting to me. And you know, this is the first gate to a successful attack, is capturing interest. So in the sales business, people are interested in responding to RFQs. Theoretically, this is coming from Richard McCarville, and that email address is rmccarville@sandiego.gov. Initially, that looks legitimate. See in the body of this email, legitimate looking contact information. I went to LinkedIn and I looked for Richard McCarville, and it turns out there is a Richard McCarville that works for the city of San Diego in the purchasing department. So I decided to click reply in the email, and reply is where I started to realize just how sophisticated this is. So if I look at the email address that I would be replying to, it is not the same as the email address presented initially. The initial email is rmccarville@sandiego.gov. When I click reply, then I see it's Richard McCarville at san-diego with 2 i's.us. So I realize now this is a trick. And one of the things that you have to be very careful of when you suspect that somebody is trying to scam you or take advantage of you, you do not use the communication information inside the email to make contact. This information, if there's a phone number provided, it will be answered by an imposter. So don't use contact information in these emails that you question. Go to the website and use numbers that are presented on websites. So something else to remember, clicking reply is not necessarily dangerous. Clicking send is where you initiate conversations. So clicking reply, all it will do is put Outlook in a mode of responding to a message. You're not clicking on any links. You're not exposing yourself to danger. The only danger comes is if you start to engage in a conversation with this person and start to fall for the trap. So very sophisticated. This is an example of where we're busy, we're working, the phone's ringing, who knows what's going on. We glance at this and we think, hey, that's legitimate. We click reply, we don't look again, and we're off to the races and the scam is on. All right. Some successful examples of attacks. This is an attack that comes around every year, the beginning of the year when tax time, when taxes are due. And these are both attacks that were successful. They were targeting the HR department, the finance department of companies, and they theoretically came from the president or the CFO of these companies. Again, these were both successful. So this one says, hi, I want you to send me the list of W-2 copy of employees' wages and tax statements for 2016. I need them in PDF file type. Kindly prepare the lists and email them to me ASAP, Richard Jones. So the email comes in. It looks like it's Richard Jones. Richard Jones is the owner of the company. Somebody in accounting receives this and thinks, oh my gosh, it's the owner of the company requesting this. They get the W-2s together, they slap them in a reply and they send them. The only problem is they're not sending them to Richard Jones. They're sending them outside the company to a third party. What that third party then does with that information is they file fraudulent tax returns. And those tax returns are filed such that a return is coming. That return is sent to a bank account that's been set up specifically to receive that money. As soon as the money comes in, it's transferred to an offshore account. The employees and the company don't find out about this until a few weeks after this has happened, and they go to file their own tax returns, and the IRS notifies them, why are you filing? You've already filed, you've already had a return. And that's when you get that sick feeling in your stomach that something has gone wrong. Now you're tied up with the IRS. Now you're involved with the FBI. Now you and your company are trying to clean up a big mess. So I've given you one way to look out for this, and people in HR personnel, the CFO of a company, the finance department, those are people that are targeted here with this attack. You have to be particularly vigilant, and you have to use the techniques I've shown you. We're also going to talk about another technique for avoiding this, which is a variation of the two-step authentication, two-factor authentication that you might hear in IT circles. And we're going to talk about that specifically as it relates to these type of requests. So again, this is a social attack, and it's seeking to take advantage of our built-in corporate culture that says, when the owner, president, CEO asks for something, you get it to them. You jump through hoops, you don't ask questions, you just reply, and that makes us vulnerable. All right, this is a scam in real time, and this was one that was targeting me. And David Rhodes is the president of one of our business marketplaces. I'm at lunch with my team in Arkansas, and David happens to be based out of one of our Texas offices, and he sends an email to me that says, Justin, are you in the office? So I know, there's just something about this email that makes me suspicious immediately. One of the things is that it's tagged as external, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But because of the business I'm in, I decide to play along, and I say, yes, what's up? Now, I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but I've clicked reply. And I want you to remember that clicking reply and actually replying are two different things. So if I were to click reply, I would see that this email that's presented, it doesn't resemble any email. It's not a corporate email. It's a Gmail address. And I know it's not from David Rhodes because I've never seen him use that email address before. But I play along and I say, yes, what's up? And this person decides to target me with the gift card scheme. The gift card scheme is where the president or a top officer in the company sends an email to a random employee and says, I need you to help me and go buy some gift cards. And what they want you to do, in this case, $500 face value, don't spend any more than $3,000. When you get them, scratch the back off so that I can see what the PIN code is, take a picture of them and send them to me. And what happens then is that person will take that information, go to Home Depot, and use that to buy products and services. I think I've done a good thing. I call David later in the day to confirm. I say, hey, David, did you get the gift card information that I sent you? And David's going to say to me, what are you talking about? I didn't ask you for any gift card information. And now as an employee, I've been hurt. I've been hurt to the tune of $3,000. And now the question is, am I going to be reimbursed? Is my company going to reimburse me? Well, some companies say, no, I'm not. I didn't ask you to do that. You just did it. So you have to be This is an example where you have to be very vigilant as an employee, and you have to be skeptical. Skepticism these days is very important to us because we can't take things for granted anymore. We have to ask questions. We have to question authority. We have to question authority figures, otherwise we're going to get hurt. All right, so scam emails are coming in every day. Whether, there's no telling how IT departments have emails set up within their companies or what the policy is, but most companies allow email to come in from banks, from utilities, from retail locations, social media. They allow LinkedIn and Facebook in. And, it's very common that I get asked, well, I know my company has a spam filter. Why don't we just turn up the spam filter as high as it will go? Well, spam filter is an important tool in the defense of a company. There's no question about that, but it's a double-edged sword, because the tighter you make a spam filter, the more legitimate email you are going to lose. So if you were waiting on a sales order paperwork, if you were waiting on a proposal, if you were waiting on bank documents, if you were waiting on important business information, but it's not showing up, one of the reasons could be that it got caught up in your spam filter because your spam filter's is dialed in so high. If your spam filter is too low, then all kinds of spam gets in. So, IT, it's a tough job managing that spam filter because you can't have it too tight, you can't have it too loose. It's got to kind of be the mama bear setting. Here's an example of a UPS email. I receive UPS package delivery shipments, and it helps me know if there's a package waiting for me. If you've done business with Amazon or any online retailer, you know that door theft is a real thing. Packages left on your front doorstop sometimes are stolen. So I like to know when packages are coming in. But if I apply the tools that we've used, I might ask myself, why is UPS sending me an email from a domain of oilmandate.com? This is not a legitimate email. All right, so something that can be done, another tool to help us be successful as employees, is to have external email tagged as external. And maybe you've received emails from people outside your company and you've seen this kind of thing going on and you're wondering, what is this? Well, it's just another tool that IT departments are using to try to help people make good choices. So if I were to receive an email from the president of my company and it's tagged with external email, that's a clue for me to realize, hey, wait a minute. Why would the president of my company be sending me an email for a request for this information that's coming from an outside email? This can be very, very valuable if we will just take the time to pay attention and look for it. All right, we also want to control information leaks. Companies really provide too much information sometimes, and one of the ways that we do that is we don't control our documents. So if you have copiers in your company and you find that you have documents laying around your copiers that look like this, or you have printers and copiers distributed throughout your companies and it looks like this, it's very common that you'll walk around and you'll find documents laying on those devices. And if we're not careful, if I'm in HR or if I'm in payroll and I decide to print some payroll information and then the phone rings and I get caught on the phone, that information is going to be sitting out there in the public where anybody can see it. And let's say it gets thrown away at night. I don't know if any of you use a trash service, but there have been times where I've been working with other companies on a consulting basis, and I'll be there when the cleaning crew comes around, and I will see unshredded documents, being disposed of in dumpsters outside the company. And that's a very easy way for people to gather information, to get information to help gain familiarity about your company. There are tools that are available today to help make sure that documents don't get printed unless somebody is at the device ready to print them. And it doesn't really matter what manufacturer you have. You know, my company sells Canon, Konica Minolta, Lexmark, but any copier company has software that will allow you to implement basic document security so that you can improve that aspect of your information. This is a large medical company that I work with in Fort Worth. Not only are they doing secure print, not only are they doing shredding of all documents, but they actively educate their employees. These are banners and posters that they have distributed throughout their company. Not only do they have normal confidential emails, but they have a lot of intellectual property in the form of patents and copyright information. So making sure that their employee population is educated about security is very important to them. Okay, so just when you think that you're doing everything you can, you're checking links, you are looking at email addresses, you are really being vigilant about questioning the emails that are coming into you, you can have a breach occur, or a breach can occur by a company that you do business with, and that breach can impact you. So we're going to start talking about some things that you can do to protect yourself if a company you do business with has a breach. So I mentioned here the 2017 Equifax breach. You know, Equifax is one of those companies like TransUnion, and you know, there's three main credit reporting agencies in the United States. But in 2017, Equifax had a security breach, and that breach impacted almost 50% of the American population. Because whether you're applying for a credit card, whether you're refinancing your house, whether you're opening a bank account, those credit reporting agencies are checked, and all kinds of your very protected, very personal credit information is shared with them. So when this breach happened in 2017, I had just refinanced my house. So I had a bad feeling. I went to the website that Equifax had put together based on the fact that they had had a breach. And much to my dismay, I was told that based on the information that I provided to identify myself, I was impacted by the breach. So it's 2020, this happened in 2017. You might be thinking, well, hey, that was 3 years ago. The problem is, as you're going to see, we are creatures of habit, and we do things that make things simple for us to exist in our daily business. So something that happens in 2017 can continue to roll forward and be a threat to us today in 2017. I don't know if you've heard of the dark web or not, but the dark web is a part of the internet that's used by a lot of criminal organizations. And there are marketplaces out there to buy social security information, password information, email addresses, medical information. That stuff is bought and sold, and then it's put into use by criminals to try and scam individuals, companies, organizations of all types. All right, so one thing that I strongly recommend, and that is transaction notifications on smartphones. Whether you track bank accounts as part of your business, or whether you just track bank accounts or credit card information from an individual consumer perspective, getting notification of credit card transactions on your smartphones is nothing short of smart. I recommend it strongly. I'm on the Apple platform, and on the Apple platform, Apple has a wallet feature that allows for a very rich display of information to be shown on the home screen. my phone can be dark, and when one of my credit cards is run, that thing will light up so that I can see it, just like as if I've received a text message, and I can see what the transaction was that just occurred. In this case, this is showing that one of my credit cards was used for a barbecue lunch, and it was displayed in real time. I saw this the same moment that I was checking out at the cash register. So you don't have to be on the Apple platform to take advantage of this. You can also set up text messages. You can set up email notifications so that if you're on the Android platform and you don't have a wallet type feature, you can have that as well. This is one of the bank accounts that I have, and they didn't have an iPhone wallet app, so I used the text message feature, and I can see that these transactions are coming in, and I'm notified of them in real time as well. It wasn't more than a week after I had implemented this. I also have it on my iPad. I was laying in bed in the middle of the night reading something. Notification came across for a $1,200 transaction at Best Buy. It got my attention because I had not made a $1,200 transaction at Best Buy. So I called Best Buy, notified them of fraud, notified American Express. Turned out that someone had gotten my account information and was trying to buy a TV. So it can be very helpful. Next poll question. Passwords are a pain. I keep track of them by writing them down on paper, storing them in a spreadsheet or document on my computer, using the same password for all my accounts, using simple, easy to remember passwords for all of my accounts, all of the above, or none of the above. All right, thank you for responding. Doing a great job. Responses are rolling in. All right, just another moment. All right. So we've got 14% of the folks attending this webinar write them down on paper. 14% store them in a spreadsheet or other document. 14% use the same password for all accounts. 14% use simple, easy to remember passwords for all accounts. 14% do all of the above, and 29% do none of the above. So thank you for sharing that information. All right, let's see here. All right, so this is what, you know, I alluded to it in the poll, but you can see this is what the strategy is for a lot of folks. And, you know, this is, I understand that this may be effective at helping you remember your passwords, but I'm here to tell you that this is a way that you can lose control very quickly. So what I hope to do in the next couple of slides is to help you do a little bit better and to help you with some ideas about how to manage your passwords more effectively. So one of the first things that we have to do is we have to stop using simple passwords. These are very simple passwords that are commonly used today. And I'm telling you right now, these are passwords that are checked by the bad guys quickly to see if they can use those to get into accounts. We also have to stop with password duplication. So, you know, if I were a Cowboys fan and I wanted to commemorate the last year that they won a Super Bowl, my password might be Cowboys 1996, and I might feel pretty good about that. You know, I've got uppercase, lowercase, I've got numbers. But if in the case of Equifax, the breach that happened in 2017, if somebody got a hold of the companies that I do business with and they knew what my email address was, they could start going down the list of these companies trying this password in all of these accounts. And I've made it easy. I've used the same password with all of these accounts. So the bad guys are going to be able to go from one account to the next and use the same password and really take advantage of me in a very profound way, a way that am not going to like. These days, we find that passphrases are better. Passphrase is a much longer password. In this example, it's I love rock and roll 2020. That's easy for me to remember. And I've still got uppercase, lowercase numbers and punctuation in it, which makes it much, much harder. Another tool that I'm going to recommend for you, if passphrases are something that you want to move beyond, Password Keeper. In this case, I'm using a tool called mSecure. mSecure is a way that I can store very securely all of the passwords, all of the accounts that I do business with, and it lets me generate very complex passwords like this right here. And I can do it automatically by clicking that dice. It's a great way. This Password Keeper is available to me on my phone, on my tablet, on my MacBook, on my Windows workstation at the office. I can get this password information no matter where I am. And mSecure is a paid offering. It's not the only one that's out there. These are also paid offerings. LastPass, Dashlane. Something, if you're not interested in spending any money, something that I advise you to take a look at is Firefox. You might know Firefox from the browser, but they've done a lot of work, tremendous amount of work recently in the consumer protection area, and they now make a product called Lockwise, which is free. And it will do many of the same things that I've showed you that my mSecure tool does. And again, free, and that will provide you with the some of the same security features that I'm able to take advantage of with my Password Keeper. All right, poll question number 5. I have confidence in the data storage methodology used by my company. We could easily recover from an attack on our data. Now, this is a little bit unfair because I'm assuming that a lot of the folks in this presentation are not in IT. So you may not have a basis for answering this question because you just don't know what kind of data storage methodology the company uses. But the reason I ask this is you might ask. You might ask the IT group in your company. You know, I don't need to know the details, but help me understand, how are we storing our data? How could we recover our data in the event of an attack? All right, so I didn't quite get as many responses to this question as on the previous ones, and as I indicated, it's probably because you don't feel like you're in a position to answer. But of the people who responded, 87% have confidence in the data storage used by their company, 13% do not. Okay. So the reason that this question is important, one of the services that I'm in charge of for my company is managing the technology, managing the networks for other companies. You know, we do a lot of business with small and medium-sized clients, and we provide a managed service offering. And part of that is a comprehensive data backup offering. But in the process of building that business, we talk to a lot of people that are not clients of ours. And there are people out there, businesses, that are not doing a very good job of protecting their data. Ransomware, which you may or may not have heard of. Ransomware is an attack where through a socially engineered email, somebody clicks on a link, software is deployed, and that software scrambles all of the data that's on the network. It's encrypted, it's locked up. And then the company is contacted, and the message is, we have your data locked up, pay us a certain amount of money. If you pay us this money, we'll unlock it for you. Well, there's a lot of people that are paying money for this. So the best defense, not only are we talking about education, being careful about clicking on links, there has to be a good data backup protocol in place preferably off-site, preferably in the cloud, because when you are attacked with ransomware, you're going to need to recover, and pulling data back from your off-site data backup is one of the ways that you're going to do that. And that's about the only way that you're going to be able to avoid paying a ransom, unless you just decide to do without your data. I called on one company one time, and they were using QuickBooks. They weren't using the hosted version. They had lost all of their QuickBooks data, and they were calling their customers to ask them, what outstanding invoices do you have of mine, and how much do you owe me? Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be if you were a business? All right, so a basic security checklist. You know, we're taking the first step. You're getting some education, and you want to ask your IT department, what kind of continuing education is there that I can be exposed to? Some companies will offer a security curriculum for end users. In fact, you know, my company does that with our clients. We have training that end users can go through in addition to the kind of training that we're providing today. Skepticism and vigilance. You cannot accept at face value the emails that you're receiving anymore. You can't even accept at face value the phone calls that you receive. There's a popular scam out there where the phone call comes in and says, hi, this is Justin with Microsoft. We're aware of a bug in your area. I need to take control of your computer so I can fix the bug. And there are people that are granting that kind of remote control. Microsoft is not going to call you and take over your computer. So previously we talked about two-step validation. When we have these executive requests that are coming in, you need to adopt a two-step validation. So somebody emails you, the president or the owner or an executive emails you and says, I need payroll information, I need W-2 information, I need you to cut me a money order, and that comes to you in email. You need to pick up the phone and call that person using a known phone number, or you need to get up out of your chair and walk over to that person's door or desk and say, hey, I just got an email from you. Did you ask for this? Or if you're intimidated by authority figures and you don't want to make that call, escalate it to your manager so that your manager can make the call and find out if it's legitimate. Don't get in a rush. Don't feel the pressure to respond immediately. I know that's going to be your initial reaction, but you have to take a step back and have a two-step validation. The person requesting this will appreciate your due diligence. All right, password keeper. I strongly recommend getting a password keeper. It helps you really elevate your security game at the personal level. Get notification of financial transactions, improve your document security, make sure that you're using software to control what documents print on your printers, on your copiers. It's called Secure Print. Make sure that you are shredding documents, and make sure that you have a solid data backup strategy at your company. So the last poll question that we have, I noticed when we were signing on that there were folks from outside the region, but I'm just curious. In my opinion, the risk of a cyber attack in the central East Texas area or elsewhere is overblown and is largely fake news. True or false? Few more seconds for the poll. All right. Well, I've got 100% saying false. It is legit. It is a risk. And I tell you, working with clients, working with people who are not clients, I see people that are getting hurt all the time because they don't take this seriously. And one of the things that happens is that people will spend money on technology, but they will not train their end users, and that leaves the door wide open. So we've got a few seconds left. Michelle Coleman, if there are any questions we can answer. I'm also joined by one of the folks on my team, one of the senior technical consultants, Richard Martin. If there's anything you throw at me that's too hot to handle, then I'll get Richard involved. But Michelle, are there any questions or comments?
We did. And, you know, we talk about this type of stuff all the time here at the Better Business Bureau, but you taught me a couple of things. I did not know about the brackets. We don't use that external feature, and I'm wondering if you can do that through, you know, our email is Gmail based. We use Gmail as our email provider. So can you do that if you are a Gmail or a Google Mail client?
Okay. I don't know the answer for Gmail.
Okay.
I can get that answer for you, and you know, we can push it out after the meeting. You know, it's just something that I'll have to get an answer for you on. Most of the email that we deal with is Microsoft Outlook based, and you can't get that set up that way.
Okay, that's great. Great information. Okay, so we had a few questions. One is, when you say that an attack was successful, can you be more specific as to what that means?
Sure. An attack can be successful because somebody received an email to go buy gift cards, and they actually go and do it. An attack can be successful because an employee has clicked on a link, and by clicking on that link, software is deployed that locks up all the data on the network, and now the company grinds to a halt because nobody can work, and core databases are now tied up. It could be successful, and you know, I'll give you some personal insight. One of the things we do is we have sent out fake emails in the past just to see who is clicking. And I did click on an email previously that was not legitimate. It was a LinkedIn email. I mean, how many LinkedIn contact requests do you get every day? I got it, didn't even think about it, clicked the accept the connection, and a message popped up and says, we got you. You know, luckily it was my IT department testing me, and I failed miserably.
You know, we see people fall for imposters. We call these imposter scams too. And, you know, once they see the logo of a company that they trust, they don't look any further. And we've seen so many people fall prey to that. Okay, so we had another question. Is Lockwise only available when you're using the Firefox browser?
I believe it's available as a standalone application. And Firefox, you know, they are really taking next steps as it relates to privacy, web-based privacy, internet privacy, email privacy. You might have had that eerie feeling that, you know, you've searched for an item online, and now all of a sudden you start to get ads about that when you're browsing the internet. You know, they've got that Lockwise tool to help you with passwords, but they're also doing a lot as it relates to just general security and protection for individuals.
Great. So we had somebody ask if you could pull back up the San Diego email that you were talking about earlier. They were not able to see the difference in the two. If you wouldn't mind pulling that up for them, that would be great. Just maybe you might need to blow it up a bit.
Let me see. Let me go to that.
While he's looking at that, Lockwise is available on the Apple Store and I believe on the Google Store as well.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. All right, can you see my screen?
You'll have to reshare.
Okay. So this is the email. So when I first received it, this looked very legitimate. rmccarville@sandiego.gov. But when I click reply, the reply address changes and it's rmccarville@san-diego.us. So you can see it's not the same .gov, it's now .us. Over here was San Diego, one word. Over here, it's San-Diego, and Diego has two I's. So it's not, again, the danger here is that we're busy. We are so busy answering the phone, talking to people stop by your door, whatever, that we look at this and we think it's legit. We hit reply and we're already down here answering, and we don't even confirm this after we've clicked reply. That's the danger.
Great. One last question. Is there any way to minimize or stop these pop-up ads from showing up everywhere?
Well, there is. Usually it's browser-based, and you're going to have to go into your browser, and there are pop-up ad settings that can be adjusted to help with that. Richard, you might have some advice to that question.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so there is settings in the browser as well as your antivirus or anti-malware software that your company deploys. A lot of times they have pop-up settings within that program. Most of them will even integrate with your browser. So if you're looking at your browser, you'll see in either the top right or top left corner the name of your antivirus software that you're using, and that helps with preventing pop-ups.
Okay. Well, thank you guys again for this wonderful information. As a reminder, we are going to send everybody who attended today a link to a copy of this tomorrow. So you'll get it about 11:30 tomorrow morning, 11:30 Central Standard Time, because I know that we have people from all over the place online with us today. And also wanted to remind you that next month on October 5th, our next webinar is going to be, Dr. Stevenson is going to be talking about making sure we have a clear mission for the future of our organization. So again, a great team building kind of webinar for your leadership team. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. You'll also receive a link to that. Justin, will you be able to make the slides available as well?
Absolutely. And
okay.
There's contact information on the last page if you're interested in getting more detailed answers to these questions, or if you'd like information about the managed network security service that we provide.
Wonderful. Justin and Richard, thank you so much. I hope that we can make this something that we maybe do once a year, so that we can get updated information to our businesses and to our communities.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.